Hi, and welcome to FindLaw's 5 in 5, the show that takes you through 5 interesting legal stories from FindLaw in about 5 minutes. I'm Joe Falbush, a lawyer and a senior writer here at FindLaw. Today I've got hockey talk, some criminal charges and lawsuits filed over environmental practices, and even a court case out of Texas involving adult websites. Should be interesting? Here we go. Let's start by talking about hard drugs. You might remember that back in 2020, Oregon decriminalized the personal possession of hard drugs. That decision is now being reconsidered. Oregon's Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety Response recently voted in favor of a bill to recriminalize hard drugs such as cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. Decriminalization efforts appear to have failed due to an inadequate treatment infrastructure and rising overdose deaths, particularly from fentanyl. The new bill aims to balance public health strategies and law enforcement to address drug use, but there does remain some concern over its impact on communities of color. The new bill still tries to give drug users plenty of options for treatment in lieu of going to jail. That it's hard to make it to the NHL isn't surprising, but young players are alleging that it's harder than it needs to be. A recent class action lawsuit alleges North American hockey leagues, including the NHL and CHL, have violated the Sherman Antitrust Act by creating geographic monopolies in youth professional leagues. These young players argue their movements and compensation among teams is restricted. Players claim they're underpaid and exploited, with the leagues benefiting from these unlawful agreements. They're seeking damages for labor and the use of their likenesses without compensation. You must be aged 18 or 21 to legally access adult websites, but that requirement has never exactly been strictly enforced. Texas is seeking to change that by passing a law requiring adult websites to enact age verification measures to access its content. Texas also wants these websites to contain health warnings about the dangers of watching pornography. Adult websites were not pleased by this law, and they challenged it as unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, however, recently upheld the Texas law requiring age verification, but they did strike down the mandatory health warnings as unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit found that Texas's law was related to a legitimate government interest and was a reasonable method to prevent minors' exposure to pornography. A lot of companies are going green, or at least making a point of advertising themselves that way. JBS Foods, which is one of the largest meat producers in the world, is one of them. But New York is suing them for greenwashing their environmental practices. The New York Attorney General has alleged JBS is falsely advertising about its plans to reduce emissions and deforestation. Despite a net zero emissions by 2040 goal, JBS has no concrete plan to achieve this and continues to emit a high amount of greenhouse gases. The lawsuit seeks to halt misleading ads, impose penalties, and demands an audit for exploiting consumers' environmental concerns. In other environmental legal news, a man from San Diego has been charged with illegally importing and selling greenhouse gases, including hydrofluorocarbons from Mexico, which violates U.S. environmental laws. HFCs are useful refrigerants but can be 10,000 times as potent as CO2 in the atmosphere. This marks the first U.S. case against illicit greenhouse gas importation and shows that the U.S. is currently seeking to enforce international climate change agreements. The man faces 13 charges and potential prison time if convicted. That's it for now. As always, you can find more information about these topics and others on FindLaw.com. If you have any questions, comments, or story ideas, please email me at FindLawPodcasts@ThompsonReuters.com. Thank you.